Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Rise of the Phoenix, and this video will be a Khaldoon Commander Overview / Guide. Khaldoon is an amazing commander. He has definitely surpassed my expectations this season, especially for being only a Tier 1 commander, which means it is relatively easy to increase his respect. And I think that he occupies a really unique and powerful position in the current PvP metagame of Rise to War. I talked briefly about it in my Season 2 Evil Faction Player versus Player metagame video, but I'll go into more detail about that in this video. But before we get to it, if you enjoy my content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right into it here. So, Khaldoon is an evil man, which is important to consider when you are trying to figure out what items to equip on him, as certain items are not usable by evil men. He is a warrior, which is an interesting trait for Khaldoon because he's really more of an army buffer in my experience, at least the build I've been using so far this season. I don't really have him doing any kind of damage of his own. I suppose at some point I could mess around with that and see how it works out, but just at the basic level, at first glance, I think that using him as more of a support commander to buff your troops is better than using him as a damage dealer, particularly when evil side has alerts who just does all the damage anyways. So let's go ahead and take a look at his skill build. I'll pull up this picture for a minute. So if you guys want to take a screenshot or anything, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. But since I do have Khaldoon, I can go ahead and show you the build that I'm using so far up to level 48. And do keep in mind that these pictures that I made, most or all of them were made before the Impart Wisdom change. So really they're all a few skill points short. So I should either redo them, or I guess it doesn't really matter that much because the goal of the picture is like the absolute core skill build, and anything else is just kind of extra fluff. And a lot of that extra fluff becomes player preference. So let's go ahead and come down to the skill build that I've been using. As you can see, it's pretty much exactly like the picture, except a few extra points up here since I am at Respect 7 and Impart Wisdom 4. So I get a few extra points. Easterling, actually quite a nice title, way better than I thought it would be when I first read it, because it decreases attack by 20%, which is very considerable considering that a lot of people are running around, a lot of people are running around with like Theodins and Eowins and Eomers, all these cavalry commanders wreaking havoc, and cavalry attack tends to be quite high, which means shaving off a fifth of that is going to be a lot more damage reduced than if you're shaving off a fifth of like guards at the tower who do like 15 damage or whatever. So quite a nice title. Iron Guard, 50% chance, reducing physical damage received by 30%. Damage mitigation. Evil Alliance, damage mitigation. Marshal of the East Mark for melee units. It's the same exact thing as this guy here, but this only applies to melee units. Damage mitigation. Quicksand, a tiny chance of being stunned each round. Really the nice part about Quicksand is a 20% damage received debuff on the enemy on 2 of their units. So nice little damage boost for your army. And this thing right here is what makes Khaldoon so freaking good, especially for Angmar. This build is specific to Angmar, although I think you could make it work as any evil faction. Or if you're playing on a non-RP server, I'm sure there might be some other things you could do with it. Actually, that doesn't make sense because it's only evil men. Disregard that. That was off script anyway. That was me being stupid for a second. So 25% chance every single round for evil men to attack twice. That is super crazy. That means somewhere between 2 and 3 extra attacks per evil man troop in your army per 10-round combat. So you're looking at anywhere from 6 to 9 extra attacks, potentially more, potentially less, but generally speaking, 9 extra attacks is crazy. It is so powerful. Like Convener, which is one of the best skills in the game, in my opinion, if you have 3 units and all 3 of those hit the 75% chance for Convener to proc, that is a total of 6 extra attacks over those 2 rounds. This is anywhere from 6 to 9. Granted, Convener gives initiative as well, which is crazy, and it pairs super nicely with things like sharpshooters that have extra damage in early rounds. But anyway, this is kind of like a mini Convener, but can potentially be better in long combats, and Khaldoon is quite good at long combats because of all of his damage mitigation. Other than that, we're just putting a few points into Experienced Warrior and Hunt Down, as this will apply a debuff to the enemy and make them take extra damage. I should probably check to see if this stacks with Quicksand or not. A lot of times, 2 similar debuffs don't actually stack. I do need to read some combat logs and see how this stacks with Quicksand, because it might be wasted points. But either way, it's only a couple of points here or there. The other options aren't particularly thrilling anyway, so this still might be the best on the off chance that the Hunt Down debuff gets applied to a unit that does not have the Quicksand debuff applied to it. All right, let's go over some troop compositions. My Khaldoon is out in the field. Oh, I'm about to get hit by this guy. Let's see what happens. This guy is quite good. He has a really nice army, so I may not win this one. But for the sake of this video, this was not planned, by the way. For the sake of this video, we'll see what happens. We'll take a look at this report here in a second. Draw. Not a bad fight, particularly against Gandalf. He lost about 83,000. I lost about 96,000 health worth of troops. Actual casualties is actually slightly in my favor, although I was losing cavalry. So we sort of have to count some of these like 500-ish casualties. We sort of have to double those, since cavalry are valued at twice as strong as infantry, generally speaking, in terms of command points per troop. So this is actually really convenient. I should probably go ahead. Okay, actually, I don't have to withdraw because my homie here saved me. So I can actually just start a reinforce cycle and chill, because when this draw ends, Gandalf will not fight me again because there is no adjacent tile. So let's go back to the report. That's not the right button. This was actually the perfect time to record a video. I love it. All right, so this is the army that I've been running right now, currently for today. I'm training up some more Fallen over time. They're just so expensive and they take forever to train that they can be hard to keep in stock. But yes, 3 Evil Men units. This is pretty much the army composition that you're always going to want to run for as long as you have tribal tactics. You could consider, and I've thought about doing this, if you don't want to use Evil Men, I've thought about trying Khaldoon with no points in tribal tactics, but putting more points in Experienced Warrior and Hunt Down, or maybe even the poison damage stuff, because that might be able to do some extra damage against cataphracts. I'd have to really sit down and think about it, but right here, this is the bread and butter. Optimally, what you want to do is trade out either the Halberdiers or the Corsairs for Fallen. And so you'd run Fallen, Dragoons, and then one type of infantry, depending on what you're fighting. If you're fighting against a lot of cavalry, you want to bring in the Halberdiers. If you're fighting against a lot of dwarven units or other high armor units, I wonder, Corsairs might actually do more damage against cataphracts than Halberdiers, even considering the Halberdier bonus. Maybe. We'd have to actually look at the math and stuff, but anyways, yeah, bring a 3rd Evil Man unit based on what you're fighting. How much did he do? See, his army, I think was way too heavy on guards of the tower here. Needed way more sharpshooters, and bringing Dunedain against evil factions, it's questionable in my opinion. evil factions don't have that great of ranged units. And I mean, these guys are still pretty good. They do a lot of damage. But really, I don't know. I guess that might have been just what he had trained or whatever. Let's check his gear. Reasonably nice Gandalf. Madness Helm. Healing Pipe. Makes sense. His skill build makes perfect sense. Interestingly, he doesn't have full points in High Alert, though. I feel like taking points out of here, the High Alert might be better, but I'm not sure. How much healing did he do? 54,000. Sheesh, that's actually way more than I expected. Okay, I'm getting off track here as far as the video goes. I just looked over and I am running out of time. But here's a good example of a Khaldoon report. This guy is awesome. I just fought a level 50 Gandalf with reasonable gear and a correct skill build and came out pretty much even, which is more than a lot of commanders can say in terms of fighting Gandalf. Let's make sure Yams. Oh, all right. He wants to fight me for round 2, so let's cancel this and go home because he will have the advantage going into round 2. Don't really want to keep fighting Gandalfs over and over, especially if you're behind, because then you get more and more behind because of the convener rounds. So troop composition, check, we did that. We showed a report, awesome, very good. Finally, let's get down to itemization. Very straightforward as this guy. Evil men are all melee units, and they are all evil men. So you want evil men stats and melee stats. So currently I am running a Cutlass, army attack melee, allied melee units damage dealt increased. Probably not best in slot, but still quite solid. We have scale mail, might focus, army defense melee, allied melee units, damage received reduced. Pretty decent. Also probably not best in slot, but still quite reasonable in my opinion. I am using a Madness Helm, of course. As soon as I started to refine this bone mask, I had like so many bone masks sitting around that I used them for strengthening and refining. Because I was like, oh, I'm just going to get more bone masks. And then I haven't gotten more bone masks. I really want to up my madness chance here because I think it's a super nice thing on a helm. I'm using this because of the army HP. Other good options, particularly if you're going to always be running Dragoons and Fallen, since you'll have 2 cavalry units, get a Horseman's Helm with stun immunity. This will help against Gandalfs, and it also increases your mounted unit defense, which is quite solid for Fallen. So Horseman's Helm might technically be better, but I already had this bone mass strengthened and refined, so I figured it would be better for now until I can replace it. I have a fine smoking pipe, not particularly wonderful. What you really want is something more like this with army attack, because you want, in my opinion, attack is the best stat in the game because it's applied to the base value of the unit, and you want your attack to be as high as possible with somebody like Khaldoon, who is affording your units the chance to attack twice, because that's double dipping on that attack value. The reason attack is the best, in my opinion, like I was saying a second ago, it's applied to the base value of the unit, which then means all other increases increase the amount that you're actually getting. So let's just say for easy math, you had a 50% increased damage. You have army attack +2. That really translates to +3 once all the other modifiers are taken into account. That's why I think it's such a good stat. Unfortunately, alerts is kind of my main commander because that guy is just ridiculous, although Khaldoon is a nice close second. One day, once I get another good drums, I will probably be replacing this pipe. Khaldoon's focus is pretty terrible, so I'm not really getting all of that much healing off of it. I'm just using it for the health and the +20 focus for now. It's like another, 1% damage reduction, I think. 1 point of focus is 0.05% damage reduction, so 20 focus would be 1% damage reduction. So it's kind of like having half of this in terms of the focus. So that's my gear. Definitely could be better, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. Been really, really happy with how Khaldoon has been performing for me, as you can see in that last report. I would dig for some more reports, but this video is already going a bit longer than expected because of this fight here. So we'll leave you with this. And I'll go ahead and say that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something useful. Let me know what you think about Khaldoon down in the comment section below. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.